Hello everyone. I am going to talk to you about could the rage virus from 28 days later really happened? Well, I've been fascinated with doomsday movies for a long time. I like the ones that could actually become a reality. I find those are the scarier ones, and in this video I will talk about one such movie and the virus that turned people into raging killers. So, one question: could the rage virus from 28 days later actually happen? But first, what is the rage virus exactly? So, the rage virus is not real. The rage virus is a fictional virus from the movie 28 Days Later and its sequel 28 Weeks Later. It does not mean, however, that a rage virus type pandemic could someday become a reality. The rage virus is an infection that most people confuse with becoming a zombie, but there is almost no comparison from a zombie to an individual infected with the rage virus. First off, someone infected with the rage virus is alive. They don't die and reanimate and become undead like zombies. I have read some articles that have mentioned that the rage virus from 20 days later is not as far-fetched as people would think. So, the rage virus is also known as the infection in the movie 28 Days Later and sequel. While they were actually filming the movie, there was two German scientists that had said that it's not very hard in today's information age to be able to create a virus. The two German scientists were able to create a synthetic polio virus. The scary part of this story is that they were able to gather all the necessary material from the internet. The rage virus is simply known as the infection in both movies, and it is a lethal blood-borne virus that sends the infected person into a state of severe and uncontrollable anger, hence the name rage virus. So how did the rage virus start exactly? Two scientists were ultimately responsible for creating the rage virus. So the rage virus was indeed man-made, even though it was entirely accidental. Events like this could happen in real life. The rage virus was created by using the Ebola virus as a means to transmit an inhibitor that regulated anger control issues. Now, if that's not irony, I don't know what is. So after 2 weeks, several isolated genomes in the Ebola virus reacted to the inhibitor and created a mutation. This mutation caused the inhibitor to have the opposite effect. Instead of repressing anger, it caused the infected person to become full of constant and uncontrollable rage, thus creating the rage virus. So in the movie 28 Days Later, the virus began to spread from infected chimpanzees that were being used as test subjects. The chimpanzees were released from captivity by a number of animal activists. The activists all became infected themselves after the chimps attacked them. Both the infected chimps and activists were now fully infected with the rage virus. That's basically how the virus began to spread across Cambridge and eventually throughout Great Britain. So how would the rage virus spread? The rage virus, highlighted in both 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later, spread through the blood and saliva and is extremely infectious to the point that just one drop of infected fluid is sufficient to infect a host. The virus is typically spread through bites from the infected, but can also be distributed through saliva transfer. Even a single drop of blood getting into someone's eye or mouth will infect the victim. So the symptoms of this virus is that when a host is infected, it will only take between 10 and 20 seconds before they succumb to the infection. It also appears that the amount of time it seems to take for the rage virus to take over is all dependent on how much infected fluid that is directly exposed to the victim. To give you an example, someone would almost instantly be infected if an infected vomited a few mouthfuls of fluid directly in a person's face. If a single drop would only infect a host, then it would take upwards of 20 seconds before the rage virus would begin to infect the victim visibly. The host's first symptoms of the rage virus would be experiencing excruciating spasm and uncontrollable twitches and convulsions. As the virus is taken over the host, they will also begin to bleed from the eyes. The infection will also cause capillaries to hemorrhage, making the host frequently vomit blood and bleed from the eyes and nose. The eyes of the infected host will almost immediately turn scarlet red. This is followed by violent and uncontrollable anger and aggressiveness, coupled with the suppression of greater intelligence. From that point on, the infected will seek out and brutally attack anyone they encounter. The rage virus grants the infected host great quantities and grandeur and endurance, therefore permitting them to spontaneously rampage over miles and miles of territory and overrun entire towns. So how did the rage virus spread so fast in 28 days later? Well, first, the results of the virus were considered by the media as rioting, but the citizens soon disproved them as the infected were attacking small communities and towns as well as the larger cities. The Prime Minister declared a state of emergency 8 days following the release of the infection. Martial law was imposed, but the army barriers defending London and Manchester were overwhelmed by the infected, causing the remainder of the panicked public that was not previously infected to try and leave the country. This exodus ceased 15 days after the rage virus was released. NATO and the United Nations quarantined Great Britain. Within the next 13 days, British society collapsed, and Great Britain was ravaged by the infected and consumed by the rage virus. Aside from the few scattered survivors, the remainder of the British people were either dead, infected, or had fled during the exodus following the initial outbreak. The infected increasingly started to die from starvation. 6 months after the initial outbreak, nearly all of the infected in mainland England had died. Although there was still some infected north in the mainland, especially in Scotland, who was more recently infected and had since not died of starvation. So most importantly, could the rage virus happen in real life? So I'm sure many of you listening are wondering if such a virus could actually happen the way it happens in the movie. There is one major issue with the virus regarding if it could be a global catastrophe. The one reason I think the rage virus, as seen in 28 days and weeks later, would not be a world-ending event is because of latent period incubation of the rage virus period is way too short. Virtually, there could not be any hidden carriers to spread the virus globally. If everyone that has the virus turns into a raging maniac within seconds, then they could be quickly contained in one country or at least one continent. As an example, how difficult it would be to spread worldwide is that no one with the rage virus would ever be able to enter a plane. Usually when a virus is globally spread is when an infected don't know they are infected with a contagious illness and shows no symptom while they unknowingly infect others. So if a raging maniac goes into an airport or into a plane, probably not going to take off. So the rage virus versus zombies. What's the difference? Well, the rage virus and the undead, also known as zombies, only have a few similar characteristics, one of which is the appetite for human flesh and the transmission of their infection as a result of a bite. The similarities basically ends there because the people infected by the rage virus are not undead. They haven't died yet, and when they do die, they will not reanimate due to their infection. Another significant difference between the two is that zombies are very slow. While people infected with the rage virus will run after their prey, there will be virtually nothing that will be able to stop them. So if I had a choice, I would much rather be fighting a zombie than a rage-infected person. So to conclude this video, I just want to say that I find movies like 28 Days Later interesting because it is not entirely out of the realm of possibilities like the undead waking up and becoming zombies. A rage virus type infection could become a reality in the controlled environment of a laboratory. You never know what scientists are trying to uncover and create these days. It makes me wonder if someday the world will end without our planet being destroyed by humans in the process. So please let me know in the comment section below if you like this video, if there's anything I've missed or that you think I'm wrong about. Please subscribe to my channel, and thank you very much for listening.